I saved about 120 hours with her support, which has been crazy to think about, like what I would have been doing in that time. And it really freed me up to do a lot of things working on my business versus in my business.
So, Nichole, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to chat and to share your story. And just to start off, do you want to let everybody know what kind of a photographer you are? What do you focus on photographing?
Sure. I am super excited to be here. Thank you for having me. I am a personal brand and headshot photographer. So I focus mostly on portraits. I swear I can speak.
And I love right away when you said I focus mostly on portraits, I literally thought of like, that's so punny because
Yes.
focus.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
Yes,
such a nerd.
I love that.
That was a
No, I
mom
should have
joke,
that.
guys.
I love a camera pun all day.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. And yeah, so you mainly are a branding photographer, which I'm like super excited because like many OMI students are portrait photographers and wedding photographers put together or only wedding photographers, but then I'm seeing more like show up that are branding photographers and it's just like pretty much outsourcing works across the board for any photographer. And so I love just seeing it when it's working for you guys as well. And to start, maybe let us know what you're focusing on outsourcing first. Or maybe just like um, share what your first move was because you signed up for OMI October 2022, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what was your first move and thing that you integrated?
The first thing I did was the VA portion
Mhm.
of it because I knew I felt the most comfortable outsourcing that work, which was a lot of the back end stuff, like updating my email list. Like I have Canva templates that I had her work on, like editing blog posts, like having a second set of eyes on that too. Man, today. Um, and those are things I was like, I feel really comfortable outsourcing this, and I feel confident that a VA could handle that too. So I took your course and I kind of skipped to that point. I was like, all right, this is what I want to do first. Virtual assistant. Let's try this. And I also loved how you broke down, like, here's how you hire. Like, that was really, really important to me because that was one of the biggest areas for me that I had kind of struggled with. I had hired a VA on my own, but I didn't really get the results I wanted. And I didn't want to give up because I know some people have been successful with VAs. So I was like, all right, well, let's see if I can try this other method. And I loved how you broke it down to like, here's the website you go to, here's how you update their like your job description. Like all of that was incredibly helpful. And so I think it made it really easy for me to take that next step.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm happy that you kept the attitude of, okay, it hasn't worked for me yet, but it works for others. And I just need to find the way that works. And I will not stop until I find it. So I'm happy to hear that. And I'm happy to hear that my detailed step-by-step like processes helped you because I just wanted to take out the guesswork. I don't want you thinking, but what do I do next? It's like, oh, Sarah already told me every single detail. Done.
Like for me, that's what I look for in a course. Like I
Mhm.
don't like I think there's a lot of times we hear a lot about the what, and it's like it was a new entrepreneur at the time. I had literally only been full time in my business about, oh my gosh, 6, 7 months at that point.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
I had it as a side hustle about 5 years, but like I really wasn't thinking in the same way when it was a side hustle as I did, and I shifted when I became full time. So yeah, about 6 months in, and yeah, I really felt like at that time I was like, okay, like I need to learn this. This is gonna be really important, and I don't want the what. I just want somebody to tell me exactly how to do it so I can save the most time in implementing this because I just want to implement. Like, how do I implement? So that was huge. Like that was really, really great.
That's amazing. I'm Rory just walked in on me podcasting. It feels so awkward. That's
Like
so funny.
I know
You
I
walked
don't know
in, you
why.
had no idea I was podcasting. You just slipped out of the room to say hi.
Hi.
Oh, that's funny. After like 3 years of having a podcast, that was a first and actually quite entertained me. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So that, yeah, exactly. It's the how that just speeds up the whole process and gives you the fast track, right? So,
Yeah, which is what I wanted. That was so
mhm.
important. Getting the fast track is what I wanted. So thank you.
Amazing. Of course. And so let us know. So I know you've had your VA now for 6 months. Let us know how many hours you saved with her support.
I saved about 120 hours with her support, which has been crazy to think about, like what I would have been doing in that time. And it really freed me up to do a lot of things working on my business versus in my business. And for me as a new entrepreneur, as a solo entrepreneur, that felt really, really important so that I could prioritize those things to help me grow and then hit those goals I actually want to hit. Because if I was stuck in a place where I had no help, no support, it's like I felt it wasn't going to happen, right? I wasn't going to hit or achieve the things I wanted to, definitely not at the speed that I wanted to. So that was a really big shift for me. And like looking at the actual number, it was like, wow, it's crazy.
That's amazing. I love that you already were thinking that way and you're like, I need to buy my time back if I want to grow faster and
Mm-hmm.
in a way where I feel like it's fun growing and not just stuck on doing shit I don't want to do, right?
100%. And it's funny because a lot of time I thought I needed to do this stuff. And I think it's easy to get caught in the trap of, well, I need to do it, or I do it best, or it's too hard to train somebody on this. And for me, I knew I have to just be patient in the process because once she gets to the point where she is trained, that's going to be the point where I feel the most like, oh, okay, it's working. So it was like getting over that hump of like all the self-talk and also like that belief of like, oh, I do it best, or oh, it's going to take too long to train. So I was like, no, just focus on what it's going to save you once that's done. Like I think that's like a manifestation thing actually. It's like focus on the energy, how it will be when it's done.
When it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible because it's kind of even like asking if you ask yourself the question, um, what does that version of me that I want to become, what decisions do they are they making differently? How are they showing up differently? And then if you act from that place, that's when you become that person. So you literally did that.
Yeah. It's funny. You don't reflect on these things and I talk about it, I was like, oh yeah, I did do
Oh yeah,
that.
I did do that. Yeah. Today is a celebration of you. Like this is like this is why I'm so excited to put together this episode. Like all these wins, like because you're still on the journey, right? And I'm really
Mhm.
excited to like feature your story because even as you're on the journey and still like getting it figured out, we're going to talk soon about what the next thing you've just started outsourcing is. You're already seeing results along the way and experiencing it. And we're going to talk about that too. But before we move further, did you want to share how much you invested with your VA to get the 120 hours back of your time? How much it cost you?
Yeah, so it was $600. So that is such a low, like when I was doing the math, I was actually really surprised at those numbers. I was like, wow, this is wild. But
Yeah.
also it's very telling and how great it can be and like um how worth it is. Really.
Yeah. So pretty much, so Nichole's VA is in the Philippines overseas.
Mhm.
And so if we divide 600 by 120 hours, it's about $5 an hour. And for those of you that are brand new to this podcast, if you are, like you're like, wait, but how is that ethical? It is ethical because the conversion rate on the dollar is in our favor. So let's say it costs us $5, like let's say Canadian, but I think Nichole is in the States, so it's $5 US for her. But for her, it'll be like a regular rate that she's happy with, and her VA has her own business and she gets to say yes or no to that rate. No one's forcing her and she gets to work from home. Just like us photographers, we get to say yes or no to shooting a session for that amount or whatever. So just to paint that picture, I've said it so many times on the podcast, but I know I'm getting an influx of like new listeners. So I always have to say that. And it's just incredible because I think you even mentioned you're like, it's just an amazing, do you feel this, Nichole? It was an amazing entry point for you to start outsourcing without feeling too scared of letting go of too much money. And then you start noticing, oh, this is what it feels like to get back my time and what I can do with that time. Is that what you started feeling?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it can feel so out of reach if we, especially looking at the financial aspect of it, being a new entrepreneur, having so many expenses, so many goals and things you want to do. And so this made it very easy for me to be able to say yes to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a variable expense, which is great. So I know one of my biggest goals was to keep my fixed costs low. So being able to hire somebody at an hourly rate. And so the hours can change each month. So if something wasn't going well, or let's say I needed to shift in my business or pivot in my business, it was an easy thing to shift. So I could be
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, and I opened my lines of communication with her. Like I talked to her very honestly about what I'm feeling, ebbs and flows in my business and what I think
Mm-hmm.
might be coming her way. We used Monday.com to communicate. So that was another great tool. I was a project manager in my past life. So that was
In my past
all
life.
in for that. Let's do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, keeping those lines of communication open, especially when you have like a vendor relationship. I kind of look at her that way because while she's my VA, like you said, she has her own business. So it's like, how can I communicate? Hey, this is coming. So she knows she has work coming in, but also in those slower periods, so she understands like, oh, okay, might be quiet for a little bit. So she knows she can take on more work too. So she can also balance her schedule and what she has going on and feel more secure and what's happening for her and her family. So
Way to go. Like amazing communication. And the cool thing is that this alleviates that like pressure that we could create in our own minds by assuming and thinking that if we get support, it needs to be consistent and they are now our employees. And holy shit, that feels so legit. And like I'm not there yet, but it's not true. Like you can get flexible hourly support. And especially if you communicate that effectively, then there's no pressure on you to be like, yes, every week for sure, you're going to get 10 hours from me. Like, no, you don't actually have to feel that pressure. So I love that you shared that with us.
yeah, and that was one of my biggest concerns going into hiring somebody. So it was a relief to feel like that was possible to be like, oh, it doesn't have to be this like fixed thing. It can be
Mm-hmm.
fluctuate. But also like the price point was so low. Like even like I remember at one point I was like, I just want to give you money, even if you're not working. I
Just
kind
as
of
a thank you. Yeah.
thank you. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the beauty
So
of it. We can always just
yeah,
like out of nowhere be like, you've just been doing so well lately. Here's like an extra bonus. Like that's what I do
yeah,
all the time. And it's just like, or a raise, like, and it feels so good, you know?
exactly.
All
Right. Like
right.
I want good. So that's
You
yeah.
what?
No, I definitely want her to feel good too. Like
Exactly.
that's really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah. If they're taking care of us, we need to take care of them. Like,
important.
and I once heard someone say, like, my team are my biggest paying clients, and I take care of them like they're like family pretty much. And it's like that just creates so much like, first of all, just like goodness and like also like loyalty. And so there's just so much potential to be able to like be there for someone in that kind of sense and really realize that without them, without their support, your business couldn't thrive and grow as much. So they are your biggest paying clients, and so like take care of them too, right? Not don't just be like oh you like treat them badly and like oh you didn't do that well for me. Like no, like there's so much more to it. So oh my gosh, okay, I could like talk about this stuff forever. I'm gonna keep focused. So let's talk about the next thing that you outsource. And I love that like this is still pretty fresh to you. It's about 3 to 4 weeks that you've started really gaining traction in this. So maybe tell the story of how you started to when you decided to okay finally start training for outsourcing your editing and how that like time frame of training was so worth what you're experiencing now.
Yeah. So I decided in over the summer months that I needed to train a editor, and that was really important to me. I didn't mention this before, but I did use Image Salon and I liked them. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was great. But my personal preference was, you know what? I actually like somebody I can talk to. I like somebody who will really adjust to my style. And so I knew somebody actually very close to me who was looking for a side gig. Hello, gig economy. Thank you.
Yeah.
And she has a creative background. She went to art school. So that actually, it was just like a win-win situation. And I'm very much in the belief of when you really say yes and you decide, the universe will show you and say, hey, here you go. Like, this is the path. Cool. Take it. Like, set you up. And that's really what I fell into place. So I actually trained my sister to do my editing part time. And it's been huge because in July, I was a little bit slower. And I knew in September I wouldn't be, that I was going to be booked up. So I knew if I was going to take on additional clients or additional work in September, to be able to hit my financial targets and goals that I had for this month, which were about 50% higher than last year, that I would need support in doing that. And so by hiring my sister, I was able to take on more clients, bring in more revenue, and hit my financial goals, which will also help me hit my personal goals, which is hopefully to buy a house in the near future. So that's
Yay.
the whole.
Yeah, you explained that so beautifully. And it's like, of course, you were in project management if you're speaking that lingo. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
It satiates my entrepreneurial mind. Yes.
You were like, Monday.com. I was like, oh my gosh, because I used Smartsheets in the past, and I've used Asana, and I've used all the different like project management tools, Trello. So I was like, yes, I'm here for a PJM tool.
Yeah. And okay, so then now you're finally like, so she's trained and you're at that point where you're reaping the benefits of the initial training. And so can you share how many hours you've saved in September alone
Yeah,
recently with her helping you with editing?
about 24 hours, which is huge.
24 hours. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And tell everybody what she does. So she edits and then what?
So she edits all the photos and then she uploads them into Pixie Set so that it actually saves me additional time. So I don't have to sit there making sure they upload, making sure they're downloading from Lightroom, because that was one of those big, for me, it was a pain point for me because I hate waiting for stuff. Like I'm working on, but like sitting here, it's like, okay, it's uploading. Oh my gosh, like when is it going to be done? Like that to me, or like looking at my phone while it's updating and then getting distracted. Like I just felt like that was such like a poor use of my time as a
Mhm.
business owner. And it really didn't make me feel empowered to do it. So giving that over to my sister was like a huge release for me. And I still look at the Pixie Set gallery before I send it off, and I'll say, oh, I might have her adjust a couple of things, but overall, it's then it's in there. Like she's taking that ownership of that. So that's been helpful, really, really helpful.
That's amazing that you got the training to the point where most of the time you look at the Pixie Set gallery, like, yep, it's good to go. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
really incredible. And I'm so happy for you. And I love that you're like so self-aware and conscious enough of like this, like waiting around is decreasing my energy. It's not inspiring me. It's an open energy loop. I think that's why, because yes, you can't technically someone's like thinking, well, it's uploading for you, go like do something else. But then in the background, you're like, well, maybe in 5 minutes I go back. Oh, wait, it's not done yet. Okay. And you're constantly context switching and you're not fully present to where you want to be. So I love that you're just like, I don't like this shit and I'm going to get rid of it. Because that's the point. Like, customize your outsourcing in your business, right? Some people won't care about that step. They'll be like, oh, I don't care. I like having an excuse to sit on my phone during that time or something, right? But you didn't like it. And so you got rid of it. And I love that so much. So well done.
And there's also, well, it's the worst when, I mean, I've definitely had moments in the past, not every time, but occasionally where you're uploading something and something goes wrong and then you've walked away and you're like expecting to come back and it's all good to go. And you're like, oh crap, something happened. And like, that is just like a no for me. Like that's huge frustration. I was like, oh, it's so, yeah, no.
Were any computers harmed in those situations?
I mean, we had malfunctions right before this episode recording, so I don't know. Maybe I didn't realize it.
energetically.
Yeah, I was like, damn, no. On my computer, I'm very grateful for it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is also amazing. I would love to now move towards like the piece of how it's helping you transform your life and business. Something I know that you mentioned is that you have no more headaches. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot about that. So I when I overextend myself, which I tend to do, especially during seasons of high volume, I will get headaches about a few hours into working. And it's probably because I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself. It's probably because I have poor eating habits sometimes. And it's like, I just want to get it done. Like that pressure of like, I just want to finish this. I just want to get this off the list. I'm a people pleaser. So I'm like, I want to make sure people get their galleries in time. Like reliability is important to me. It's one of my brand values. So I put a lot of pressure on myself to do that. Health wise, that's not always great because there's stress. That's like basically a lot of stress, a lot of cortisol pumping through my body. And so I'm not eating properly, not getting the proteins I need because I'm not taking the breaks I need. So for me, being able to outsource some of the work gave me the ability to take better care of myself, which then also gives me the opportunity to go out and be a better photographer because I take my job as a photographer seriously. Like I like to hype up my clients, I pour into them. And so if I'm not pouring into myself, I'm not taking care of myself, then I won't do scream at my dog's barking, of
no,
course.
that's okay. I don't hear them that much. It's good.
So that's really like that was kind of one of the biggest things. I was like, I need to really shift this to be doing a better job in my work for my body and then for my family and my friends and the relationships I have because if I'm constantly exhausted and depleted when I come home or after I'm done an editing session or whatever the scenario is, then I'm not showing up my best self in any of my relationships. And that to me is just not the life I want to live. It's just not. So it's like it all kind of feeds into the whole pie, the whole picture.
Yeah, so beautifully said. Is there a moment that comes to mind that you've had recently where you realized you got what you wanted in the sense of you felt so either super present with family or friends, or they noticed a shift in you, or is there anything that comes to mind that you could describe for us?
Yeah, I last night I went to a concert and that was probably something I wouldn't have done last September. So I literally went to a shoot. I had like a 2 hour shoot and then I had a concert right after that. And I last year, maybe a few months ago, I might have said, you know what, I can't do this concert. I can't go, which was actually with like some close friends, some of my best friends. And so I probably would have said no because this is my busy season. I can't do that right now and really shifting out of that mindset of like I guess busy season, right, and making it feel more just like I don't know, like a full time, I don't know, just shifting my mindset around that, like I can make space
Harmonious.
yeah, like making
Yeah.
space for all the pieces of my life, right,
Mhm.
like life is like on a pie and it's like there's work is a slice of it, right, I don't want
Yeah.
it to take up the whole thing. And so sometimes in my life when I was working a lot, it was taking up too much space, right? And I was leaving like this much room for friends and like this much room for spirituality, and this much room for like any kind of self-care. The rest was all work. And so it's like expanding all of the pieces so they're more evenly spaced out. And so that like that's what doing this and shifting this helps me do, right? This is one big part of doing less of the work and having more of the other pieces of my life
Oh, I
back.
love that metaphor. That's so good. That's such a great visual that you painted. And it's so funny because so many times photographers when they end up really calculating if they're working 80 to 90-hour weeks and then calculating how much they're making, they're
Mm-hmm,
usually making less than minimum wage. And
mm-hmm,
it's like, would you
mm-hmm.
want like imagine you go to a party and everyone's like having this delicious pie and it's like you're like, oh, I can smell it. It's like so like has like the apple smell and apple crumble and some whipped cream and you're like, "Oh yeah, I want a piece of that pie." And imagine someone gives you the tiniest little sliver and you're like, "What the hell? Why is that all that I get?" Like and that metaphor comes to mind because are you the photographer? Are you the business owner that gives yourself that small sliver of the pie? Right?
Mhm.
Like give yourself the bigger sliver of like for your life too. You don't just have, like you said, all work and no play in busy season, right? So
Yeah.
I love that you painted that picture. So good. So
Yeah,
good.
I think I'm a better photographer because it makes me show up better. And I think a lot of us are really passionate. I don't want to, I mean, I know I'm really passionate. That's why I got into this work. That's why I quit my full-time job to do this because I loved it. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that connection to it, that passion for it, and that desire for it. And when it doesn't matter, I mean, too much of anything can be bad, right? So that's kind of the mindset I've always kept is like, okay, I have to keep this in perspective because I don't want to lose my light around this because it's also it makes me good at this. So that was like again something that kind of falls into this feeling of okay, how do I get my time back and how do I outsource more so I can kind of shift some things in my life to make sure I can keep this sustainable and keep going, right? Because so many people
Yeah.
like they quit, right? Because it
Yeah.
gets I think what's the statistic? 52% of businesses fail in 5 years or something like that. It's really high, at least in the States. So yeah, I don't want to be that. I don't want to have that be me. I want to be the other half.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
I love how you're so proactive about it. Like that's such an amazing quality that you've nurtured and created within you. That's amazing.
thank
And
you.
I love how, oh, what something came to mind. Oh yeah. So for those of you listening, I want you to pay attention that Nichole like is just getting started. Like she's literally dipped her toe. She's saved 120 hours with the help of a VA. She's saved 24 hours just in September with the help of editing. And her investment wasn't that much. And she's already feeling so many benefits. So if you're thinking like, oh, I'll only start feeling the benefits of outsourcing if I finally have everything outsourced. It's like, no, as soon as you get started, you start seeing the results. It's like that quick. You just have to like literally cross the bridge of like, I'm over here and I'm scared. Okay, I'm going to walk across the bridge. Oh, okay. It's kind of cool over here. And like, it could be fun and exciting. And yeah, so that's why I love your story because where you're at is so inspiring for so many that just want to take that first step and or the first two or three steps and
Yeah.
you're doing an amazing job.
Oh, thank you. And I think I would just, the only thing I would say is like, there's still some stuff editing I do. I didn't give it up completely. So you can still decide if you want to edit something, right? It's like, you
Yeah.
don't give it all away. It's not like an all or nothing thing. I think sometimes it feels so much like this. It's like black or white. It's like, no, it's gray. You can mix it and make it what you want it to look like. And that has been like a really big learning curve for me. But I think it's something that I'm trying to embrace more and more. Is okay, like I can let go of this and I can keep this. Like again, I think you talk about that a lot too. Like, what do you want to let go of? Like
Mm-hmm.
choose that stuff, right? Even if it's
Yeah.
just like hiring a VA to upload your photos. I don't know. Save you that stress.
That's such
Yeah.
a great point to make. Totally. Yeah. You get to customize what you let go of. Yeah. Okay. I think that's like everything that we wanted to go through. Is there anything else that comes to mind? Actually, so if a photographer is literally right now, they're like, okay, I'm trying to decide, am I gonna sign up for OMI? Like, I want to, I'm feeling pulled to, but I'm just scared. I'm scared of the fear that comes with like, can someone really do it like I can? What if like I don't make my money back right away? What if like all of these fears or even like can this work for me? It's worked for her, but can this work for me? Can I learn how to outsource effectively? Like if someone's on the fence about OMI, what are some like words of wisdom that come to you?
I would say you learned how to be a photographer. So you can learn how to do this too. So I think a lot of times you forget how much we've already learned in our lives and how much we've grown. And you can trust yourself. You can have faith in yourself to know that, especially if you're feeling called to do this, any desire inside you, that's meant for you. Like it's just meant for you. And it's gonna get louder and louder and louder until happen. That's been my experience. And just trust yourself, have faith. You learned, we're constantly learning new technology every day. You learned how to make a reel, right? Like, you can figure this out, right? Like that wasn't that long ago that we had to make that mental shift, right? And we all did it. So yeah, have some confidence in yourself and your abilities, reflect on what you've already done so far, and know that like you can do this too.
So beautifully said. Thank you so much, Nichole. And if anybody wants to reach out to you and just let you know, oh, you helped me, or thank you, or I have a question, where can they connect with you?
At Nichole MCH Photography on Instagram, TikTok, all the places. It's a Nichole MCH with Nichole. So there's an H in my name. So if they want to find me.
Awesome. And spell it out again. Nichole, what's the rest of the handle?
Nichole MCH Photography from Marie Howard. So that was I didn't know what to call my business. And I just went with that. Here it is. This is fine.
Yeah. The shit we all go through as photographers. What do I name my business?
Yes.
Amazing. And we're also going to link it in the show notes too to make it easy for you all. So yeah, thank you so much, Nichole. I'm so grateful for your time, and like this is going to be so helpful for so many.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having us, and thanks for creating the training. It was really helpful.
Oh, my pleasure. Yay! Thank you so much for hanging out with me and tuning into this episode. If you got value out of it, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Sarah Monica Photo. That's Sarah no H, Monica with a K, photo, to let me know. I get so freaking energized hearing from others that what I've said has had a positive impact on their lives. Also, make sure to hit subscribe to the Shine and Thrive podcast to never miss an episode. I'm so grateful for you, and I'm sending you all the productive vibes your way so you have the best week ever.